GM fam, happy Friday. Welcome to the final live stream of the week. I'll be offline tomorrow. So, of course, as always, give you a little bit of time to queue up any questions, comments you might have uh, while I recap with the article today. I'm kind of proud of this one. I'm finally coalescing some loose thoughts I'd had around lately into like a more coherent, consistent framework. Basically, do you all remember like just last May, literally like 2 months ago, when we were feeling absolute peak pain? This was the events following the crash of Luna, and it was a time of utter panic. GM Crypto Worm, utter panic. I mean, what were you going to do with your money? Nowhere was safe. Are you going to put your money on chain? Yeah, right. Not with everything collapsing. Off chain? Yeah, banks are going to take it. And we saw all of CDeFi collapse. People were literally fleeing Tether for USDC. That's how intense the madness got back then. It was insane. And I'm bringing this all up just to say that doesn't this actually feel like ancient history? Like that sense of absolute dread. I don't know about you, but I'm not waking up every morning and like panicking. Oh gosh, I have to look at the prices. It's going to be down another 50%. It feels like such ancient history because in part DeFi has gotten back to shipping. We've seen a lot of product launches over the past months and they've been pretty successful, whereas we didn't really see any of that back in May. So I'm bringing all this up and I'm drawing a lot of parallels with the 2008 recession. So I know I'm dating myself because the Zoomers and younger audience don't even remember the Great Recession or know what that is. But way back then, there wasn't so much of a thing as crypto. Like, yes, there was Satoshi and a few pals, but it wasn't a very big deal. However, there was a very intense startup culture, which is probably the closest parallel. And back then, startups got hammered hard by the recession. But this pain came very quickly. So immediately, like valuations got slashed, fundraising dried up, a lot of the parties stopped. So the startup scene felt the pain acutely, but it also recovered pretty quickly. Contrast this with my poor fam, not the fam, like I say, GM fam to all of you, like GM layman's terms. But my actual family back in 2008, they didn't even see the pain right away because they're mostly tied to the housing market. So it was really slow before they felt things. Now, startup pain came quick, recovered quick. It was intense while it lasted, but it was very short. The pain that hit my family and the housing market, a lot slower to hit, but it lasted way longer. In fact, startups were already back to their boozy parties and their sky-high valuations before my folks even felt a thing, as I recall. But it took them about half a decade before they could successfully sell their house, which they've been trying to do just before the recession. So I'm noting this phenomenon. Startup hit quickly, recover quickly. Housing market hit slower, recover slower. And I'm going to borrow the term elasticity to cover this. Elasticity already has a counterpoint in economics, which is the like sensitivity of price to changes. But it's just such a perfect term, I can't come up with a better one. So I would open this to the comments. If you can come up with a better term to describe this rebound effect, I'd like to hear it. Because I think that this term really encapsulates what I've seen in terms of DeFi. So as mentioned to those of you joining the stream a bit later, it was just 2 months ago that we were feeling intense peak pain, like get up every morning and dread looking at the prices because it's going to be down another 20%. What's collapsing today? This was pain. This was feeling really bad. This was sort of peak crypto pain. But contrast that with now where it's kind of gone. Like the pain came quickly and it rebounded quickly. So I wanted to try and like see if there are parallels here between 2008 and now. Like this quick pain and quick recovery within crypto. So the first thing I wanted to do is quantify this by looking at just the broader crypto trends. Like, am I right about this or am I just imagining things? Like, it doesn't feel bad to me because the amazing shipping activity going on. I mean, just in the past month, I've come up with examples in the article. We saw major shipments from Frax, Base Pool, Synthetics, Atomic Swaps, Aave released their Ghost coin, Pyrex, BVE, CVX, and Clev, CVX, and the bullish Convex unlock. Viper's Titanoboa, Stake DAO's Liquid Lockers, Liquidy Chicken Bonds, Rupston merge, PUSD having their positive DPEG mechanics, and Curve launching their cross-chain V2 factory. Like, there's been an amazing amount of shipping activity. So it doesn't really feel like pain to me. But then I looked at the broader crypto Bitcoin Fear Index, and I saw that Bitcoin's Fear Index is at 15. At all-time low was 10. So the broader crypto space is still suffering. And then I realized it's because I'm just focusing on this super narrow slice. Like I care about DeFi, particularly curve stuff, and that's doing relatively well. Centralized, decentralized finance, aka Three Arrows Capital, Voyager, BlockFi, Celsius, they're still feeling the pain. They're still trying to unwind these bankruptcies. It's touching on the government by way of bankruptcy courts, so it's going to necessarily be slower. So my thought is that there's different levels of elasticity within DeFi. So on-chain DeFi, incredibly elastic. Hit quickly, rebounded quickly. Centralized, decentralized finance, not so elastic. It got hit also very quickly, but the recovery is not yet there and might take some time to wind through courts. There's a third element here, though, which is traditional finance and the broader effect on normal people. And here I really see some parallels with 2008, because if DeFi is super elastic and centralized DeFi is not so elastic, traditional finance, like, we're only starting to see the tip of the iceberg here. So already we've been seeing literal riots in Sri Lanka, Albania, Argentina, Panama, Kenya, and Ghana as far as concerns about inflation go. That's just the tip of the iceberg, probably. A lot of people are forecasting it's not going to be until late next year that the food prices work their way through the supply chains and actually hit people. So we're in for a lot more pain. So my thought is that CeFi, incredibly inelastic, and we're going to be seeing the effects. So this is just a speculation, but my hunch is that DeFi is already recovered, and we actually see some evidence of this. I did a quick Twitter poll and said, how do you personally feel fearful versus greedy? And when I compute the composite of that, that's clocking in of a DeFi fear index score of around like 37. As mentioned, Bitcoin's at 15, which encompasses CDeFi as well as DeFi. So it seems to me that the DeFi fear index score is kind of calibrated correct in my mind, and that we're not like bullish or optimistic just yet, but we're certainly not feeling the like absolute dread that we were feeling a few months ago, or the dread that you might be feeling if you're in CDeFi. So that's a kind of quick synopsis of the article. I go into a lot more detail. That's just for paying subscribers today. Got to give the people who are paying to support the newsletter a little bit more privilege, but mostly covered here. Again, this is a live stream, so I'll go ahead and open this up to your comments, but it seems like launch the stream maybe a bit too early today, so may not be getting a lot in the way of comments. So instead, you're just going to get a older person recounting stories of the Great Recession, which is fine if that's all it is. But Thomas Biking says, hey, hello, Thomas. I'm going to be doing a bike ride a little bit later today. Layman's terms, wait until the EU goes down. Things are getting so rough with the dollar strength. Yeah, oh yeah, we can talk NFTs. I'm always down to talk NFTs. GM Amon. I think the EU dropping calamitously is one of these effects I'm talking about of like this kind of elasticity, where like DeFi is already basically recovered, but it was just like a few weeks ago that the euro had its crypto style plunge. And Europe is going to be hitting things way, way worse than crypto is in my estimation. Like, let's see how things are doing at the end of winter when there's issues with gas stuff. Thomas Biking, have a great bike ride. Always do. Always get like the best thinking done on bikes. I find bike rides are particularly great because I can plug in audiobooks, which was the other thing I was going to do for this article today. I bumped it for this because I wanted to see the effect of what people thought about this elasticity hypothesis. But getting to listen to like audiobooks while I bike is such a joy. You can just go for a few hours. Is crude oil up and ETH gas down the new trend? Yeah, good question. I hope so, because then if ETH gas is too high, I can go take a drive, and if ETH gas is low but oil's high, I can stay inside an ape. So that's kind of like the perfect combo. I don't think it's an accident at this point that crypto really took off when lockdowns were in vogue, because I've been teaching this cryptocurrency class. Oh, it's a fintech class at the University of Washington for a few sessions now, and I get to talk to a lot of students. And I taught the first class like just coinciding with the first lockdowns, and it really was when people were stuck at home and the lockdowns were kind of in full swing that a lot of people became awakened to cryptocurrency. So I do think that the kind of awakening that people have had lately to cryptocurrency is sort of a direct result of some of these broader macro trends. GM Bert. And it's actually like, I would have thought that the most recent session, this is after Amon joined me in the session previously, which was at the time the most like cryptocurrency intense session I'd seen to date. But the most recent cryptocurrency session is crazy. Like the amount of people in this most recent class who are like bullish on cryptocurrency is through the roof. And I wouldn't have expected the opposite, because this is in the peak of kind of the crypto bear market. And I would have expected that like there's a lot of people who hop on with the price and hop off with the price. But this is like the ape energy is very strong and growing stronger. And I think it's a direct result from people seeing what's going on with TradFi. Thomas Biking, same. It's a great way to get your mind in order / listen to podcasts or whatnot. It's just, yeah, it's so pleasant. It really hinges on finding a biking route where you're not going to get killed, which is a lot of them. But if you find like kind of like nice smooth trail where you can go for miles, which we got a lot of here in the Northwest. Nick Yates, it seems that crypto generally follows TradFi markets when they go down. Wouldn't you think DeFi would go along with this too? Is there evidence of separation from DeFi from wider crypto? Yeah, I'd encourage you to look at the full article today where I talk about this concept of elasticity. In essence, like the markets do move together, but in my experience, and this is kind of drawing parallels to 2008, where in 2008, everyone felt pain, but the startups sector felt the pain immediately, but it recovered rather quickly. Whereas the housing market, the pain was a bit more gradual to set in, and it lasted a lot longer. So I even kind of recall that like by the time like my parents first got hit by the housing crash, I kind of feel like startup culture had already recovered. That is, the boozy parties had resumed. There's like some of the sky high valuations were starting to come back. So my theory is that, or I should call it a hypothesis, is that at this point, we're seeing the same effects going on with cryptocurrency and the broader markets. So they're both kind of going together in terms of like, obviously crypto crashed pretty severely. Obviously the broader markets are crashing pretty severely, but I think there's an elasticity to it, which is that crypto crashed quickly and recovered quickly, whereas broader markets, I think, are still undergoing the crash, and that like it was just recently that the EU crashed. We're going to see a long time for these things to work through the supply chain. Just generally, when things have to work through governmental systems, it goes a bit slower. And even within crypto, there is a bifurcation where DeFi, in my estimation, already kind of recovered. So DeFi is back to shipping products, whereas the more centralized DeFi services, CDeFi, those haven't yet recovered. So I think that there is a bit of a bifurcation there, where DeFi is, I quantify this in terms of the fear greed index. So the Bitcoin fear greed index is at 15. At the absolute peak pain, it was 10. But DeFi doesn't feel like it's at a 10. It doesn't feel like it did in May when nothing was safe. And I did an informal poll, and the rough like DeFi metric would come out to 37 of a DeFi fear gauge index, which kind of maps. Like it's not bullish, it's not optimistic, but the energy is a lot better than things are if you like have a bunch of money in like just in Celsius or something. And we're seeing like stuff resume. Thomas Viking asks, am I a university prof? I wish my university offered crypto blockchain classes, and Amon, who went through the class, said it was great. I'm not a professor. I am an instructor. I teach a night class because like I don't really have time to deal with all the crazy stuff in academia. So just the 2 hours a night, a couple nights a week is plenty for me. It's a blast. It's offered through the University of Washington, and they are very smart to have a class like this because the topics within it are amazing. The topics cover, like, in addition to cryptocurrency, there's also a lot of stuff on machine learning. And I wish I'd had these these topics when I was in university, because they're great. If I were giving advice to the University of Washington, I think that they should actually and all universities should centralize this. So MIT, it took them a long time, but they eventually kind of enshrined startups as a pillar of MIT's education. And there's a movement to kind of get the same going for cryptocurrency. I think that they should really any university that's smart is going to start launching a full cryptocurrency division and everything therein. Did I already look into Velodrome on Optimism? I've looked into Velodrome on Optimism a little bit, not as intensely as I should. What I see is it's very cool. I think that Lord knows I'm the biggest curve maximalist out there, but as far as optimism goes, I think that Velodrome's doing a better job and probably going to take optimism long before curve. Not seeing the same kind of ape energy on optimism at the moment. I'd like to take a class if I went to University of Washington. It's a night class. It's an extension class, so you can take it. Layman's terms, I still think we go lower in crypto. The macro outlook is just too downward right now. CPI print was 9.1%. We are about to get 100 basis points on the interest rate going in the August break. I agree. I'm not making price predictions here because I'm not smart enough to do that, but I think prices are going to go lower. I think we'll get to see 3-digit Ethereum, which is great news because the merge is coming up, and 3-digit Ethereum means you can buy a validator node for less than $32,000. Used to require over 100K. So big difference there. I think crypto is going to keep going lower. It's just going to be tied to macro because crypto prices itself in terms of dollars. So if the dollar is changing its valuation rapidly, there's no way that doesn't affect crypto. That being said, like I'm not speaking so much about like the prices, but just the energy in DeFi. I don't think the energy is going to go back necessarily to the May lows unless we see another shock. And I'm just referring to the distinction between in May, it was bearish beyond belief. Like you talk to people and they're literally withdrawing money to store it under the mattresses because where else is going to be safe? Like you can't store it on chain because everything's exploding. Can't store it off chain because all the centralized DeFi banks are rugging people. You can't store it in banks because that's not a good place to be. So there's just nothing you can do with your money. And people are panicked. So this is, like I said, when like Tether was depegging almost and moving towards USDC. I don't see us getting back to that energy. Back then, no one was launching anything. Now people are launching stuff. Like there's a laundry list of amazing products they've launched since then in DeFi, and a lot of them have been seeing success. So like that gets me excited, is the building energy. Hazem Amami. Quick question. 2 streams ago, you mentioned that companies/startups make way more money from being close to money printers comparing to selling widgets. Can I explain a bit further? Yes. My analogy with this is in the lockdowns, when the companies that survived, like if you were a small mom and pop shop and you sold, let's say, widgets or hamburgers or anything, that didn't help you survive. In fact, you couldn't survive because the government was shutting down your business and saying you're not allowed to sell widgets. The only way that you could survive in that period was to be able to get massive stimulus, bailout, PPP loans, whatever you want to call it. So in other words, like the success metric for capitalism was not how good your business can do during normal times. It was how closely tied to the government you are. If you have good lobbyists, yeah, sure, you could be fine. Like Blockbuster Video could have been fine if they got a bailout. It wasn't a question of how good your business is. It was simply, can you be higher up on the access to the money printer? It's called the Cantillon Effect. And in this way, like we have this kind of like horrible system that pretends it's capitalist, but in a true capitalist system, like the businesses will live or die based on like how efficient they are. If the businesses live or die based on how good they are at getting bailouts, that's not really a capitalist system. That's a system that's centralized government control. And it's fine. It is what it is. That's just things. So read through The Sovereign Individual, the book that was published about 2 decades ago and is proving incredibly prescient, where they talk about this. They do a direct comparison of communism versus capitalism systems, and they sort of conclude that communism is like almost like the 2 sides of the same coin, and that capitalism is in fact more efficient at extracting resources from the economy than communism, and that they're able to like get the pseudo benefits of the free market by kind of allowing people to entrepreneurially pursue whatever opportunities, but then through incredible taxation and other ways that government exerts control over private individuals, they still get all those resources to flow back to the government. So they say it's like they say it's like a more ruthless or brutal form of communism. I kind of agree with that. So that's my like rough theory on like you're tied to the traditional finance system, the game is not like who can build the best business. The game is who can suck up to the government the best. And that kind of sucks. But, just you can't complain about the game. That's what it is. Layman's terms, had not thought about the 32K node price. That's going to expand the network quite a bit. Institutional level to get stake rewards on the books. Yeah, I'm super curious to see what happens because they've announced closer timeline for the merge, so it looks like it's moving forward. So I got my Gorley nodes working, so I'm going to write up how I got that going. It's earned 0.02 ETH so far. I'm a little curious to see what the rewards look like. Like, we don't yet know what it's going to look like when ETH staking turns on. And if a lot more people are firing up validator nodes, then wouldn't that be the case? Correct me if I'm wrong here, that you get fewer rewards from running a staking node. In which case, like, I'm running the staking node and I might not earn as good of rewards if I just bought Steph and found the places in DeFi to stick that. But who knows? Who knows? I also have noticed that, like, there's like a million funny little things that could go wrong in terms of like getting the ETH staking like node working properly. And I hope this doesn't hit me. I'm still going to run ETH staking nodes regardless. But like, I noticed, like, when I was running the Gorley staking node, I synced it once, turned it on overnight. I turned it off the validator node to launch the consensus layer client and get things hooked up to that directly, launch that back again, and went to sleep, woke up, and it couldn't find any peers. Went to sleep, woke up again, still couldn't find any peers. It's like 2 days where it was unable to connect to peers for some reason. And then eventually it found some peers and it's been fine since then. But it just kind of occurred to me that if you do everything right, but for some reason the node can't find peers, you're not earning staking rewards. You might get slashed for that. And, I doubt that there's gonna be a problem on mainnet. I think, like, it's generally fine. I've earned a little bit of money, but I could just see like all sorts of little death by 1,000 cuts where you don't get that much from staking. But whatever, like it's way too fun to have a staking node to not do it. The bottom will come with CBDC rollout. Yeah, I saw a good discussion recently in a group I'm in about CBDCs and the US model, like kind of tying into what I was saying earlier about like being connected to the money printer. It's not so much that the US is very good at launching things from the US government. It does a much better job of privatizing everything. So you get kind of the worst of centralized and private, the worst of like public and private in one. So it's kind of funny that, like, if it's just communism, it's just bad because it's centrally planned. If it's in the American system, then it's in theory private. So you get all the worst parts of cutthroat capitalism. And then the government is forcing all these demands on it to make it bend to its will. So you get the worst part of the communism effect of it too. So it's just bad however you slice it. But the US is not capable, I don't think, of launching a CBDC. They'd study it for decades, not get anywhere. And what's the point? Like, privatize it. USDC is basically already the CBDC. So they're just going to embrace that. They're going to put on all sorts of crazy restrictions, and you're going to see it really ramp up. The government just can't help itself. They have power. They're going to exercise it. So you're going to see, in the same way that China's, we saw some stories out of China where they were launching like COVID suppression measures, and they ended up being used to attack all variety of people. We're going to see USDC just kind of like further get embraced by the government, and then they're going to start saying like social credit score style, like, okay, you didn't. Today's cause celeb is fill in the blank. And if you didn't support fill in the blank, you're going to start seeing your USDC get wrecked. In particular, they're going to, whoever is in power, Democrats or Republicans, are going to say, all right, my political opponent has money in USDC, so we're just going to drain their account. Like, and no one's going to trust CBDCs. It's going to have like a super short shelf life. So bullish for decentralized stablecoins. Amon says it's BUIDL season. I do not know how to pronounce biddle. Either way, it's build season. So I agree. And the building energy has been amazing lately. So anyone who's following this space right now, hopefully having a good time. Do I think Curve would be a good fit for the Cosmos ecosystem, or do I think they copy paste? Correct me if I'm wrong, but Cosmos is not EVM compatible. Curve has basically copy pasted into everything that is built-in compatible. So I think that if it's not EVM compatible, Curve has to basically re-engineer it from scratch, which takes some time. As good as Curve engineers are, it's just a slow process. And at that point, you have to prioritize which chain you're going to be launching on. Oh, they made Evmos EVM compatible. Okay, in that case, they could launch on Cosmos. Really cool build energy on Cosmos, so I could see Curve launching there. But generally speaking, like at least last year, Curve was kind of prioritizing the changes that were prioritizing Curve. What I mean by that is like when Curve launched on Avalanche, it's because Avalanche was offering this like huge, crazy incentive program to get DeFi on Avalanche. We saw this happen on Phantom as well. So like literally like protocols were bribing Curve to launch on it because they knew that if they wanted to bootstrap a successful DeFi ecosystem on their chain, they needed a place that people could store stablecoins. So Curve became like a hot commodity. Why am I such a Curve maxi? Why do I think they will come out on top of everything else? A few reasons I'm a Curve maximalist, but one of the reasons is simply that it's just worked for me. Like a few months ago, back when like TVLs were $20 billion, and I at the time like it was so diluted trying to like put things on Curve, especially Bitcoin. I was like, okay, let's try branching out. Curve yields are like 0.01%. Let's try some of the other stuff. So I tried a few others, and they've all been disasters, like just utter disasters. So just as a practical level, Curve has worked. I think what attracted me to Curve in the first place is that like I have a physics background, and so does Michael. So he wrote all these like papers that had some really advanced technical mathematical concepts, but I kind of recognized it. And it's sort of like a game recognized game. Like I think I like to say I'm left of the bell curve, but I'm maybe closer to midwit, but I can at least suss out who the smart players are. And I could tell that the Curve team was by far the smartest team in the business. So I saw them solving problems. I didn't have enough insight to know that the problems even existed. Like the VE tokenomics is a great example. Like they were dragged over the coals for this when they launched VE tokenomics. It's called the worst tokenomics ever invented. And 2 years later, everyone's adopting it. So they got proven right in the long run. On so many things, like they're just way ahead of things. And the best I can do in this space is try and get myself close to them to learn about it. I call myself a Curve maximalist. There's a number of protocols I really like within DeFi. So it's not Curve maximalism to the exclusion of these other protocols. It's just I happen to focus on Curve, and I've found that to be a very rewarding experience. Alex, do I feel more comfortable holding DAI than USDC? And what's my take on elastic coins like Ampleforth? Yeah, it's a good question. I don't terribly feel much concern about holding USDC. Mostly because like my USDC is kind of like fairly high velocity. I think if you look at like the tokenomics of the US dollar, the inflation is a built-in feature. Like they want there to be high inflation so people don't hold, because from the macro perspective, they want money to be flowing. They want this high money velocity. So if you know your money is becoming worthless, you can't really just hold on to it and hope it's going to hold value, because that's not going to work. And they do everything in their power to keep it from working. So I get USDC. I keep it in cases like now. I'm holding on to it for longer because I think that it's temporarily getting stronger, but I am always looking for the off-ramp for it. I'd like to know where I can take the USDC and put it. So a lot of the USDC is going to get converted into Ethereum. I'm praying for triple digits to get some staking nodes. But as far as like a place to hold it temporarily, I don't mind holding USDC on chain because I'm at the moment a pretty low target. And if they did decide to freeze me, of all people, for some reason, it would not be like a massive percentage of my net worth that's in USDC that would get iced. That is to say, like when I'm holding USDC for a certain amount of time, like I do yield farm it. So I'm going to toss it into like pool. And at that point, I do like to try and move it to other coins. So more recently, I've been converting USDC to Frax than DAI. The innovation going on in Frax is cool, and I want to. Oftentimes, when I'm aping into a protocol, it's just to force myself to pay attention to it, because if I have skin in the game, I'm going to follow it. I don't see the like velocity of innovation out of Maker that I'm seeing out of Frax. So I'm kind of more interested in just getting exposure to Frax. Amon would rather run a Rocket Pool 16th validator and share the other half with stakers. Yeah, I think that I'm a big fan of Rocket Pool. I've been advising a lot of people go with it because they make it easier. So I'm going with the pure ETH just because I've come from like a long development background of like being a back in the day, like I'd always preferred to like build my own solution from scratch rather than use someone else's solution, and that's just like a weird personal tick that stuck with me. So I'd much rather like get as close as I can to the source code, and to me, that's running the Ethereum node from scratch. I think Rocket Pool is a great solution. The only thing I worry about it is a lot of the returns come in the form of the Rocket Pool token, which is a good and a bad thing. Like it's good because it diversifies the coins you get back, which is great. Because what if Rocket Pool ends up taking off with the merge? Like then you get exposure to that. So maybe I'll like take 16 and run a Rocket Pool just to have some exposure to that. I think the downside is then if it goes the other way. So if the Rocket Pool token tanks, then all of a sudden your yields might have been not so good. What do I think about Concentrator? Do I think it's a strong place to put my curve pools in? Yes, I do. I have put some money in Concentrator, not all of it. Someone pushed back at me in the comments the other day saying that Concentrator is kind of garbage because like you have to pay them pretty high fees. It's like 8% or something like that for the privilege of auto compounding. And that's true. So if you have large amounts of money, like if you're whale size and you have the time to auto compound your yields yourself, then it probably makes more sense for you to do it directly. That being said, for smaller people, like if you're shrimp in the space, gas is cheap now, but it might not always be. We might be back to $4,000 ETH at some point and 100 Gwei gas fees, at which point it doesn't economically make sense to compound your yields yourself. So I think there are places where Concentrator is a really good place to put your money in that you can set it and forget it. And I'm generally that way just because I'm kind of lazy. So like I will take a small haircut for the passive solution that earns me more than doing nothing. Did I ape Concentrator yesterday? I did not. I will probably today. Like I say, I like to do it on weekends. Part of it is just because like during the week I'm so focused on work. Then I wake up and like I'm like, oh shoot, I have to crank out an article. So it takes me a little bit of time to get everything out. Weekends, like I have a bit more time, so I'm able to knock on my to-do list. But I think I will ape the Concentrator IFO just because, like, why not? I've got a good stash of curve, but I don't have any concentrators, so it'd be kind of nice to earn a little concentrator. You're welcome, Thomas. Seeing the questions drying up a bit, I think I started a bit too early today in terms of like the audience size is a sixth of what it was yesterday, but the questions were like way better. So thank you all for joining. Don, hello. Hello, but unfortunately, goodbye. I'm going to be probably bouncing here in just a second, unless I see some good questions trickle in here at the end. Sir, it's only because I couldn't type. The yields are very good now. That's true. I also have time to talk NFTs today. I do, yeah. I don't know if you mean to talk NFTs here on this stream or like in person. Probably you would want to talk about it in person some more. But yeah, I'm happy to do that. I have the PackDAO community call is today at 11. So anyone who is interested should join that. It's in the PackDAO Discord. Just pack.xyz, pac.xyz. So join that. At 11, we'll be talking about the release of the fungible ERC20 token. But other than that, should be free all day. So you can find time to ping me on any of the channels and just say, hey, let's have a quick chat. So I'll be eating. I'll be doing some biking. So I'll be out for that. I'll be doing some enjoying the sunshine. I'm dog sitting, so I'll be out helping the dog enjoy some sunshine. But other than that, I'll be around doing things like aping. Be careful buying CTR right now. It'll come down towards 1-to-1 with curve. Right now it's 560. Good point. Yeah, I saw some shade on the concentrator launch. Basically, someone had run the math on a hypothetical Llama Air Force token and said that long-term fees that they might get from Llama Air Force token would not be enough to justify it, so they didn't do it. If that's the case, like they say the same thing might apply to Concentrator, where like the kind of future value of all the future cash flows you might get from Concentrator are less than you would get, or are like basically like minuscule. So the Concentrator token might not hold a lot of value. So I think that's a real concern. I would be still nonetheless interested in participating in the airdrop just because I'm interested in collecting like a variety of coins, and I think that Concentrator team might well come up with some cool innovations along the way that might end up giving the coin more value. Like we saw that with Curve, where a lot of the value from Curve came not just from the trading fees they promised, but all of a sudden people started airdropping, generous airdrops to people with Curve. So there might be an argument for just having a little bit extra of the token. And it's kind of a way of diversifying a bit outside Curve for me, because I have a lot of Curve in my portfolio, and that's caused a lot of my net worth to drop. So might as well try some other stuff. What do I think about Curve versus Convex? Sorry if I already covered this. It's an ongoing debate, which is better, Curve or Convex. And I don't think I have time to get in the whole debate. I'm bullish on both of them. I think we've seen that, similar to the article today where I talk about the elasticity, I think maybe it's just due to the supply of Convex, where Convex dumps harder in the bear and might rebound faster in the bull. So it might be a good time if you think markets are going to go up to buy some Convex. Alex, is it possible that Curve can flip in Convex? So you have to look at the total supply. There's about 300 billion plus Curve and only 100 million Convex. So necessarily, like, it's unlikely, if their market caps are similar, that the Curve raw price of a specific Curve token would flip in Convex. But if you look at it just in terms of their market cap, the two do flip in market cap all the time. So during the bull market, Convex's market cap was much higher. Its rank on CoinGecko was as high as the 60s, where Curve kind of was stuck in like the 80s at highest. Once the bear market hit, both of them fell. Convex fell far below Curve. Curve was at its trough close to like 120th ranked on CoinGecko, and Convex, I think, dipped into 130th. They've since both rebounded very fast into the top 100. Curve is currently in 95th place to Convex's 97th place, and that is at a ratio of Curve at $1.14 to one Convex's $6.74. And if you want more information about that, take a look at a lot of people, especially in the Discord, which I've posted here in the comments to this video. Join the Discord. There's been some active discussion on Curve versus Convex there. It's a great place to chat about things. And take a look at the specific ratio of how much Curve one Convex controls. Has Yearn officially lost the VE-CRV lock war? Should I pull out the vaults and get on Convex's solution instead? I like Yearn a lot. I don't know enough about them to know if to issue any specific financial advice about that. Another good question for the Convex, but has Yearn lost the VE-CRV lock war? I think pretty much everyone relative to Convex has lost the VE-CRV lock war. They already have about 53% of the Curve supply. I've actually seen some interesting shade directed at Convex, saying that they sort of use their tokenomics to overpay for Curve control from some Aura maxis, saying that Aura, because their tokenomics are different, they're in a better position. So just interesting. I don't know if I subscribe to these arguments necessarily. Still yielding it though, for sure. Talk soon. Interesting. Awesome. Thanks. Enjoy my day, sir. I will. Thank you. This has been a record long discussion at 40 minutes. So tight crew. Great questions. Always a pleasure to chat with you. And I will catch all of you on Monday.